Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the Doctor Interested webinar series. My name is Alda Muki, and I'm the Executive Director of Doctor Interested. I'm so glad you could all join us today. So, some housekeeping. We ask that if you don't mind, you have your cameras on so that we can have a sense of community. Please make sure you're muted unless you are speaking and stay engaged through the chat feature. We would also like to acknowledge that this event is being organized in Mississauga, Ontario, which is situated on the traditional entry territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and that as we gather virtually today, we encourage all of our participants to reflect on the lands that they're joining from and to recognize the enduring presence and contributions of Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island, now known as Canada, and the greater world. With that, it is my honor to introduce our speaker today, Isaac Tang. He is going to be talking on the topic of applications and the first year experience at the McMaster Health Sci program. Currently, he is a honors Health Sci student at McMaster's University. He is driven by a passion for medicine, community health, and interdisciplinary learning. Through leadership roles in medical research and nonprofit outreach, as well as extensive volunteer experience in healthcare and public service, Isaac strives to connect scientific understanding with human empathy to advance equitable and innovative care. With that, I am handing it over to him to start us off for today.
Perfect. Thanks so much for the wonderful introduction. My name's Isaac. I'm a first year honors health science student. And today I'm kind of here to give a very quick presentation about university applications, kind of what university is like. And of course, probably what everyone wants to hear more about is the honors health science program and kind of how you get admitted, some considerations for applications, and stuff like that. So, to get started, I think I'm just going to start with university applications. So I'm gonna assume that majority of the people in this call right now are either grade 12s, grade 11s, just high school students in general. Um, and obviously, you guys are interested about university. You guys might be stressing about the applications, and it is a big decision that you're going to have to make in your life. So I could definitely see kind of how it could be overwhelming. I personally went through that process just a year ago as well. So I definitely understand your perspective. And what I would say to that, kind of my advice on universities applications in general is it's honestly not that big of a deal. It is not something that you should be stressing over because you have to come to understand that every single program for university, if you apply to the same thing, regardless which university you go to, it is very similar. You would be getting a very similar university experience. Uh, and if you are the type of character you say you are when you apply to these programs, you will succeed in the same way you will in any other program that you apply to. So, whether you apply to life science in U of T, life science at McMaster, medical science in Western, your GPA is going to be the same, pretty similar at least. The amount of work you put in is going to be similar. What you learn is going to be similar. So don't stress too much about it. I'd say the biggest consideration for university that some people really don't consider is where is the university located? And it's not really a matter of convenience or a matter of finance that makes this decision so important. It's a matter of your experience. So, for example, I personally made the decision to travel across the country. I am actually from Calgary in Alberta, and I made that decision to come to Hamilton, to come to Ontario because I wanted that new experience of living by myself and kind of managing everything by myself. And that is something that you would definitely have to consider for your university experiences. Do you want to kind of stay in the same city? Do you want to move to a different city in Ontario? Or do you want to just move across the entire nation and go to a university where you won't be able to see your parents as much and really be independent? And that is a huge kind of factor in how you would grow, how you would mature, and how you would develop as a student. So I would say definitely do consider that. That would probably be the most important factor. But yeah, don't stress too much about university applications. So kind of moving past high school applications and moving into kind of first year student life, I would say that probably a lot of teachers and maybe your parents or just people in general telling you about university as they say, oh, university's much more fast-paced, it's much more difficult than high school, um, and you really need to kind of get yourself together for the university experience. And I would say they are just completely lying to you. Um, every single class I've taken in my first year is not very difficult in terms of the content compared to high school. If you have good study habits in high school, if you know how you learn, you're not going to struggle at all in university. You might have slightly more content, but you will also have more time to free up your schedule, be more flexible, and depending on what you want out of it, you definitely be able to achieve your goal if you put in that effort. So it's really not that difficult. You don't have to stress about what you're learning and whatnot. Example I like to give is if you're part of that pre-med um, in a pre-med program, you'll always have to take your first year chemistry. Everything you learn in first year chemistry is almost exactly the same as what you learn in grade 11 and 12 chemistry in high school. The content, pretty much the same. The speed they teach it, also pretty much the same. The only difference might be you have less interaction with your professor, so you have less help, you have more independent learning. But honestly, with like AIs and different resources at your disposal, it shouldn't be a concern at all. What I would say about the university experience, though, is university is supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be a struggle for students. And if you find that university is easy, if you find that it's really simple compared to high school, then you're definitely not doing university right. You're paying all this tuition money, you're making such a big commitment to a university. You should be using all the resources to make your life as uncomfortable and difficult as possible, because that's what you're actually learning. University content doesn't really matter. You're not like organic chemistry, cell bio, anatomy. You could search that up on Google. You could learn that at any university you want. You could just talk to people and learn about this stuff. It's not about the content, it's about how you learn it. And so in university, um, it's definitely more about uh, learning that time commitment, how to manage your time, learning how to apply skills, learning how to talk to people, learning teamwork. And these are also these soft skills, presentation skills, whatever. These skills are what you want to bring to your medical school application as well, if that's the route you're going for. So I'd say definitely one of the most important things is make yourself struggle, make yourself uncomfortable, because that's the skills you learn. That's the experience you want out of uni. And yeah, it also makes uni that much more entertaining. If you find uni boring, again, you're doing something wrong. Moving on from kind of that first year experience and kind of transitioning to medical school, if that is your journey or kind of a career in medicine, regardless whether that's pharmacy, dentistry, or whatever, and how you could kind of prepare for that in university. I would say most important thing is talking to people. Connections is key in this field. It is about um, kind of networking with fellow classmates, networking with upper years, networking with professionals, researchers in the field that you want to be in, because those connections is what brings you the opportunities and experience that would be unique and highlighted in kind of your applications for grad school or whatever. Um, one thing many people kind of seem to ignore is yes, extracurriculars is great, volunteering is great, but it means nothing if people can't vouch for it. And that's one of the things that's always mandatory in your med school applications or whatever applications you're doing is they want references. They want people to talk about what you've done. So making those connections, don't burn those bridges, maintaining a positive relationship with the people you've worked with, so that when you tell your story, they could vouch for what you did and maybe even add in details of what you didn't include. And that means a lot to the people looking over your applications in the future. And honestly, just meet a lot of people, talk to a lot of people, don't stay cooped up in your room. One fantastic way to do this is definitely clubs. Join lots of clubs in first year. Even if you hate that club, join it anyways, because your first year is about building experience. It's about seeing what you enjoy. Everyone's new to that union first year. No one's gonna judge you for what you do. Just try everything out. And then by second year, narrow down on what you really like. So, kind of one way I like to think of it is if you have like 30 clubs in first year, fantastic. If you still have 30 clubs in second year, you're definitely doing something wrong. Um, you should have like 5 or 6 clubs in second year at most because you're trying to show commitment. You're trying to show kind of like the medical school board that you're narrowing down on your interest, that you've kind of find your passion, and that speaks a lot to the narrative that you would need when you apply for medical school. So just some kind of general advice and experience for medical school and first year uni. Now I'm kind of I would start talking more about McMaster Honors Health Science as a program. I'm sure that's what most of you joined here for, and um, obviously has a reputation for being one of Canada's top pre-med programs, has a reputation of sending a lot of students into medical school. And what I'll say to that is it is misleading. The statistics you see about how many students get into medical school, whatever, from McMaster Health Science is very misleading. And honestly, the program is very much misunderstood. And if you understand how the program is run, if you understand what the program is more of similar to and what the values are, you have a much higher chance of getting into the program. So the first kind of myth that I would speak to is I think the statistic was what 50% of all uh, graduate students make it into medical school. You arguably correct, but a very misleading statistic because not everyone in that program actually wants to go into medical school. Um, McMaster Health Science is not a pre-med program. It is not a program designed to get you into medical school. It is a program for quote unquote from the dean. They phrased it as a program of the elites to do elite things in the future. They're trying to foster leaders. They're trying to foster kind of the best students they could find across the country and have them be successful in whatever they want to do. So whether that's pharmacy, whether that's dentistry, whether that's becoming a lawyer, being a PhD student and doing research, actually a lot of health science students end up becoming entrepreneurs. I have a close friend, an upper year in health science that after their first year just decided, you know what, I don't want to do medicine anymore. And she started her own fashion company, her own clothing company, and she's been very successful in that. And so McMaster Health Science has a lot of resources, lots of connections, and it's more about using those connections to do what you want to do instead of becoming a doctor. But that's not to say if you still want to become a doctor, they'll definitely support you in that. And that's also kind of yields into why we have such a high statistic for becoming doctors as graduates of this program. The values of the program, I kind of talked about it before, is really fostering those leaders, fostering those elites is kind of what the program's about. And you hear all about that if you become a student at health science, the dean would not stop talking about it. And another value, it is kind of pushing the agenda of the university, of McMaster University itself. If you've ever been on McMaster University campus or kind of checked out the resources of McMaster, you would kind of see one of the slogans they have around campus, and that is building a better tomorrow. They want innovators, they want creative leaders, They want to foster these individuals that don't follow the norms and kind of want to do their own things and to be very good at what they do. That's kind of what the university wants, and this program was kind of developed to push that agenda, which is why health science is such an important program to McMaster. It's why we have so many buildings that belong to us. It's why so much of the budget of the university goes towards this program. It is because we're kind of pushing that agenda. Um, Other things about the university is we're very much a community. A lot of programs like life science and others, I don't know, social science, kinesiology, whatever program is kind of more of what you expect in university, where you take the lecture, you finish the class, you pass the class, and then you move on. And with so many people in programs like life science, it's kind of hard to meet each other. You have some close friends, but aside from that, you just know other people as students. That's not the case for health science. Health science has around 240 students admitted each year. It is a much smaller program and it is intentionally created like that so that you foster much more connections between the class. Uh, it's very likely that you would know the majority of everyone in your program and you would work with them at some point. Um, it's also very common that after you take your first year class, it's kind of like a narrative, it's kind of like a story for health science where you take one class, you don't just forget it and move on after you pass it. You would meet the very same professor in your second year and in your third year, teaching you kind of a continuation of what you learned in your first year. So, for example, one of our classes is praxis. And praxis is very much more about learning perspectives in between different fields and different faculties, different lenses. That's what praxis is about. And in university, you kind of take praxis one. In second year, you take praxis two. And it's the exact same professors, the exact same course, basically, but a continuation of it. So it is kind of like a storyline. And at each step, you learn more and more about the program and about the process that they're trying to turn you into. So that's very common within the program. And one thing that they very value in its students is people that could think openly, open-minded students, flexible thinkers. So one common problem I see when people apply to the program, especially when they write supplementary application, is um they're so locked in on becoming a doctor. Maybe they even thought about like what specialty of doctor they're going to be, and they write about that in the application. That's like a massive red flag on your application because we're not looking for people that already decided what they're going to do. We're looking for people that can be flexible with their mindset and can consider different ideas, different perspectives, and that includes their future, people that could change. Um, so that's definitely something the program values. And once again, I've kind of emphasized this as McMaster Health Science is not a pre-med program. And if you treat the application process as applying to a pre-med, you're not going to succeed that well. Um, in terms of the application process itself physically, it's a lot about a lot of people ask me about like academics, about grades. And the thing I always say is just don't care about it. Um, McMaster Health Science does not care about your grades. If as long as you meet the threshold of 90% in which you used to apply, we're basically never going to think about your grades ever again. And it's same with students that do AP or IB or some kind of unique STEM program. We honestly do not care. Um, like honestly, to tell you to submit your IB transcript, but I've talked to professors, I've talked to admission counselors. I don't think they even open up that file. Like we don't care about what you did in high school, how you learned. We just care that you're competent and intelligent enough to get that 90% plus, and that's all that matters. What matters is your supplementary application. It is what dictates whether you enter the program or not. And to kind of understand again, application process, supplementary application questions. are kind of created for you to be a free thinker, to show what kind of person you are and kind of be that flexible mindset. So it's kind of unlikely that any of the questions are that physically related to medicine or health in general, because that's not, again, what they're emphasizing. They're emphasizing your character, they're emphasizing your value, who you are, what you could become in the future. And that's a tip I give to any students that message me. Um, any students that kind of connect with me about their supplementary application is stop writing about what you've done in the past or who you were in the past. Write about who you are now and who you could be in the future, what you could do in the future. So lots of students are like, oh, I did so much extracurricular. I did so much volunteering for this and that. Uh, yeah, no one cares. We don't care what you've volunteered for in the past unless you tell us how that formed who you are as a person now. If you did like 400 hours of community volunteering at a hospital, well, congrats, so did like 1,000 other applicants, right? That doesn't really um, make you unique compared to everyone else. It's kind of how you describe what you did and how you kind of incorporate that experience into the questions they're asking, because the questions are sometimes absurd and the questions are not meant for you to talk about your experience. And it's fantastic if you could in a really clever way incorporate that experience and how that means to you in the question and in the response, despite the limited word limit. It's amazing if you could do that. And that's a great strategy to tackle the applications. But what isn't a great strategy is just ignoring the questions and talking about your experience. In fact, I know probably like half of the um, first year health science students this year never talked about once their volunteer experience or anything like that. Because when you get admitted, it's almost kind of like assume that you already have these experience and then you would continue having these experience in the future. And one final thing I would say to the supplementary application process is consider your audience and other programs, whether it's like Queen Health Sci or I think Waterloo has like a pharmacology program with supplementary applications, whatever. It's often like the deans or the professors that are marking your application. And that is similar in McMaster Health Science, where there are professors and there are deans and there are admission officers marking your applications, but there's much more than that. There are actual physicians and doctors and research specialists, PhD students that will be looking at your applications. And more importantly, I think almost every single one of you that apply, all 8,000 of you, at least one undergraduate student will be looking at your application, mostly fourth years and third years, but that also includes second years and first years like me. I will be looking at your application later in May and April. I would be reviewing those applications, and honestly, I could read those applications because I have read these applications before, and I can read those applications and I can tell if you're just straight up lying, if you're just trying to fit kind of that pre-med identity. I could tell when something's not genuine. And that's kind of why we students exist because we've been in your shoes. We know exactly how you think, and we're kind of there to look at it and be that first contact to see whether your application is just absolutely like orchestrated in a way to get into the program or whether it's like your genuine feelings and your genuine emotions and your genuine identity. But yeah, that basically sums up everything I have to say about the program and university experience. And feel free to ask me any questions now. And if you didn't get a chance to answer these questions or you're not comfortable with, I've kind of attached my email as well as my Instagram. So feel free to connect with me for that to communicate with me and I could provide you some further assistance.
Yeah, thank you so much, Isaac. That was really, really wonderful. So his email and Instagram is there. Before we get started questions, I am just going to put the attendance link into the chat so that we can fill that out while we wait. And I do already see a few questions in the chat, but I'll give everyone a minute to add any others. Where did my mic go? Okay, so here's the attendance link. It's in the chat now. And present mode. Okay, so the first question I see was when you applied to McMaster, did you do the IB or AP?
Yeah, so I did the AP program. Um, I think that it's still great to challenge yourself with AP or IB, even if it's not looked at. Again, university really doesn't care about whether you did AP or IB or not. But I think it's still great if you did challenge yourself because it does give you unique experience. And one thing that you could always do with your AP or IB credit is to skip certain classes. There's not many classes in health science that's like mandatory first year that you can actually skip. But if you do take a very advanced class, you can always skip and get the credit for those and kind of focus on more what you enjoy, which I think is always a very meaningful way to succeed in the program.
Yep. The next question is, what were your top three university program choices and why?
Well, my first one was McMaster Health Science at some point. I think my top three changed a lot, but McMaster Health Science was top one for me because I did I wanted to move to a different province to kind of live by myself and have that experience. And McMaster was famous at that time, had great reputation for being excellent program for entering medicine. Um, I considered UBC, um, and I think I applied to the Science One program, which allowed me more kind of flexibility in meeting with professors, being in a very highly selective cohort. And I'm a strong believer that the people you surround yourself with kind of determines who you are. So I wanted to be part of a very selective group and to kind of train my skills there and have that network available. So UBC Science One was one of my choices. And my third choice is being a student from Calgary. I wanted to consider staying local, and I applied to University of Calgary Honors Biomedical Science. And that one also had a great statistic for entering medical school, especially into the University of Calgary Medical School, which was a medical school that I very much want to get into. But obviously, that could differ a lot between where you live and kind of what your goals are.
Yep. The next question I see is, you had said that university shouldn't be easy, but isn't that a goal we should accomplish? Like that being, doing all the work with focus and being analytical. So I guess they're asking you to like more clarify on the university shouldn't be easy idea.
Yeah, of course. So, what I meant by university shouldn't be easy is yes, you should always work towards that goal of making it easier and being competent and effective with it. But once you get to that point, a lot of people ride on their high horses. They have that ego developed, and this is very prominent among first year health science students. Is we think that once we get into the program, that we are uh, we we are competent, we're intelligent, we're effective, and that's the mindset that kills your ability to grow. And so, um, speaking more especially to this program, is the first thing I ever heard come out of the dean's mouth was, throughout this program, we're going to make you extremely frustrated and we're going to make you struggle like you've never struggled before. And we're going to be smiling every second, every single second of it because you want to be challenged in ways that you're not usually challenged. And I don't just mean academically, I mean challenged with working in a group that's highly dysfunctional, challenged when your ideology um, doesn't work in certain applications, challenged when your research doesn't reach certain heights. It is those challenges and kind of overcoming those setbacks that make you strong as a student. So it's being that humble student, always looking for those challenges, putting yourself out there. And one thing I notice a lot is about high achieving high school students is they come into uni and they think that what they've done in the past works. For example, they're just really intelligent, they have a great memory, so their academics is amazing in university. And what do they do with that time? They go out partying and they go out drinking, they go out with their friends 24/7. Yes, I'm not saying don't party, don't socialize, but I am saying if your academics is super easy for you, maybe you need to go find another challenge. what is your flaw? What do you have problems with? Maybe you have problems with having conversations. Maybe you're like really introverted. Well, in that case, you should really put yourself out there more. So that's kind of what I meant by you shouldn't make university easy. You should make it difficult.
Yep. And it's really important that you're always like expanding your skill set, and like university is definitely a very good place to do a lot of things for the first time. The next question I see is more from your personal experience. Someone has heard that if you and someone else have the same ranking on the supplementary, then they would choose the person with the higher average. So I'm not sure if you are able to answer this, but if you are, like in your opinion, what do you think?
Yeah, one thing you need to know about the health science program is things change a lot. I believe the program was developed in the year 2000, so it's kind of been 25, 26 years since it's been running, and every single year has been different from the last. For example, cell bio was a class that's mandatory for all first years, including you guys once you take it next year. And the entire curriculum changed between last year and this year. That's how much the program changes. So obviously, when I applied to this program, I went onto Reddit, I went onto all these websites about how the application process works. It's intentionally kept secret for a reason, and it has changed a lot. But what I would say towards that specific question is, in general, how they did it was uh, everyone gets assigned like three markers, for example, and they would all kind of assign a mark to your supplementary application. I think it's sometimes out of seven, um, just as a unique odd number works best in these cases. And there's a lot of research done on this process. Um, but basically, the people with the highest score of seven would be admitted, and it will kind of go down that list. So if you have a six, um, you would be kind of placed under seven. We'll admit all the sevens first, and if there's extra spots, we'll admit all the sixes. And so, yes, in the case where all the sevens are admitted and there's like 10 spots left, the highest averages of those six, of the people that scored six, would usually get selected. But what I would say to this is it is very unlikely that's going to make a difference because honestly, everyone that has a seven is definitely going to be admitted, and maybe like majority of everyone that has a six will be admitted. And if you don't have like a six or seven on your supplementary application, you're just not even going to be considered for admission. Last year we had over 8,000 applicants and only 240 were selected. So that's like a competitive average of like 3% of people get admitted. And the chances of those 3% of the 8,000 students having a seven on their supplementary application is quite high. So basically, if you can't get a seven or a six on that supplementary application, it doesn't matter either way.
Yep. Since we are coming close to our 40-minute time, I do want to thank you so much for coming on today, for sharing your experiences and talking with the youth here. If your question hasn't been answered, you can feel free to reach out to Isaac on his email or Instagram, which are here. We thank everyone for coming, and we hope that you have a great rest of your Sunday. Thank you all.